God, I can't believe they made these. These are like boomer Facebook memes. That was the other one that I wanted to do. This is literally the fucking two ideas that I have. One was like a MC type of like a old fucking vintage like rap shirt type shit. And then the other one was literally Facebook memes. Chad acting more means tested than Pete Buttigieg? Yeah. That one's this on a shirt. Don't resuscitate me. Yeah.
Months Pogo.
Is this whole broadcast going to be you crying about a shirt? No, and then I'm going to talk about how hard I fucked your mom last night. Oof. Oof. God,
I like the shirt. We'll be buying both a sweatshirt and a tee.
Yesterday you were saying Saturday was going to be a big day. What exactly is it going to be a big day for? It's going to be a big day because Donald Trump, our glorious Lord and Savior, is going to be going to Georgia. Okay.
He'll take 10 white people happy.
House voted to decriminalize weed. Yeah, we're going to talk about that right now. Anyway, I'll tell him potentially to reincorporate this like angry head in there as well. Are you going to restream the Game Awards again? Potentially. I did not ask them for permission though. I wonder if they'll let me do it.
I'm insane.
Use this pic instead? Yeah, that's not what I'm going to do. You have a link to sign up to co-stream? Doubling up your face? Yeah, that doesn't matter. That's the whole point. It's supposed to have like multiple heads of mine. Oof. Yeah, it's fine. I'm done. This is never workshop anything in this community.
It's kind of unavoidable, so if it wasn't black, I would buy it. But I don't dislike the shirt.
No, it's not black. That's just one fucking... The shirt's going to come in multiple colors. The shirt's going to also be long sleeve and also on a hoodie. It's just the print. We are just looking at the print. Okay. Oh, fuck. I'm done. We're done. We are fucking done. Okay.
Hi Hassan, your shirt is dope. Definitely reminds me of thrift buys. Don't take chat too seriously.
Your shirt reminds me of the Migos album covers? A little bit. Kind of like that, yeah.
5 months with big beautiful Azuni Hassel.
Alright, let's get into it. The House just passed a bill to decriminalize marijuana at the federal level. A historic moment, ladies and gentlemen.
Hassle.
Only 5 Republicans said yes, and 6 Democrats said no. 3 of them are right here. Connor Lamb, what's it, Lipinski? Fucking that, like, some of them are like on their way out regardless, but 6 Democrats said no to marijuana legalization. It could always be worse. What? Gary Vaynerchuk go deep to sell shit?
Will there be any colors besides black?
Ideas are shit. TGIF, the grind includes Friday. Hustle mode on.
Love the stream. You're really great at pointing at the insane takes that people spit out their mouths. Keep it up.
Okay, let's hear what Representative Matt Gaetz has had to say.
It's recognized.
Speaker, I would yield 3 minutes to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gaetz.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. The MORE Act is flawed. It uses cannabis policy to do a great deal of social engineering, to create new taxes and new programs and redistribution of assets. But I am here as the only Republican co-sponsor of the MORE Act,
Love your
and
stream
I'm
and the
voting
shirt.
for
When
it.
is the merch gonna
Because
drop?
the federal government has lied to the people of this country about marijuana for a generation. We have seen a generation, particularly of black and brown youth, locked up for
Yan, you better
offenses
keep the mustache.
that should have not resulted in any incarceration whatsoever. I'm also deeply troubled that the current policy of the federal government inhibits research into cannabis, research that could unlock cures and help people live better lives. My Republican colleagues today will make a number of arguments against this bill, but those arguments are overwhelmingly losing with the American people. In every state where cannabis reform was on the ballot in this country, it passed. It passed with overwhelming support. Matter of fact, the only thing that I know that's more popular than getting out of the war on drugs is getting out of the war in Afghanistan. But if we were measuring the success in the war on drugs, it would be hard to conclude anything other than the fact that drugs have won. Because the American people do not support the policies of incarceration, limited research, limited choice, and particularly constraining medical application.
ETS is off now. Congratulations to the chatter. You did it. You did a really good job. It was very funny. You made us all laugh. I mean, I haven't stopped laughing. So thank you. There's nothing funnier than when someone just repeats the same thing over and over again in TTS.
We are here in a time where many people in our country are suffering. They are in pain. And it is documented that that states with medical cannabis programs see a reduction in the prescribing of opioids and the number of opioid abuses and deaths. We've held hearings in the House Judiciary Committee where people in our government must confess that this is in fact true, that the more we give people access to medical cannabis programs, the more we see a blunting of this horrible scourge of opioid addiction and opioid abuse. We talk all the time on the right about the need to empower people and empower states. Right now,
why is he being good on this issue? He's younger. He is better at reading the room than some of these older fucking psycho conservatives are. He recognizes that it's genuinely a popular policy. There are a million different reasons as to why you would legalize, like why you would vote to legalize or decriminalize marijuana. It is so popular that I don't even understand. I mean, it's so popular that of course the Democrats didn't do it or run with it. You know what I mean? Like, of course Joe Biden did not run with like marijuana decriminalization at the federal level because it's so goddamn popular. And if they were to actually do that, then people would be like, well, that's a position I can get on board with, or that's a position that I can attack and potentially make myself look like an asshole by attacking it. So, yeah, and also legalization leads to new business ventures. The greatest example of flip-flopping on marijuana due to like directly the profit motive is John Boehner. Okay, now John Boehner is the former Speaker of the United States House of Representatives. All right, he served as the 53rd Speaker of the United States House of Representatives from 2011 to 2015. John Boehner literally looks like an evil cartoon villain. You know, Boehner, whatever you want to say. He's a Republican, and he fiercely opposed marijuana decriminalization. Of course he did. And then now that he sits on the board of a weed company, which is here it is. Now that he is now that he is personally profiting from it, he is no longer unalterably opposed to marijuana. You know. Yeah, by the way, President Obama and I do have a similarity. Yeah, chat, how can you go crazy for this when you guys hate this? They look the fucking same. No, it's literally the same. That's why, like, it's based off of that. Like, the design is literally based off of that. And I tried Like, it's just so weird that that chat would. No, the random tendies are good. It's just the placement is a little off. I'm gonna work on fixing it. Ugh. Okay, stop. We're done. We've moved past the fucking merchandise. We have moved past merchandising. Okay? No more. No more. Please stop. So lame. Anyway, that's part of the reason why, and also partly because he wants to run for president. And like, by the time Matt Gaetz can run for president, maybe not in 2024 because Donald Trump is probably going to run for president again. He needs to be. He knows that like that's a supremely populist position that he needs to be on board with. Anyway, also, it's top of the hour every hour. I forgot, but it's time for a 60-second ad break. And I'm going to run an ad right now. If you'd like to avoid the ads, you can subscribe for $5 a month. Or if you don't have $5 a month to subscribe, you can subscribe for free by connecting, or rather yoinking someone else's Amazon Prime account and connecting it to your Twitch account by getting one free subscription that is called a Twitch Prime or Amazon Gaming or whatever the fuck it's called now. But there you go. Here's the ad. And I'm going with the video
the federal
too.
policy on cannabis constrains our people. It limits our states. And I would only hope that in the 117th Congress, after this bill invariably dies in the Senate, they will actually come back and pass the States Act, because the States Act acknowledges that we have screwed this up in the federal government. And while we've screwed it up, states have taken action. They've designed programs in the way that our great federalist system promises. And if we were to pass the States Act, then best practices would emerge. States that developed applicable programs for their people would be replicable, and we would see better policies.
The biggest point of federal decriminalization or federal legalization is that it opens up even further avenues to research it, figure out whether it's safe or not. Okay? And also more significantly, then you can participate in the banking system. Because currently, while you can get more tax money too, like I'm just saying that like it's a great issue for criminal justice. It's like a win-win on every fucking. It's a win-win-win-win-win across the board. Okay, you often don't get that. You don't have an opportunity for a win-win-win-win-win across the board. This is one of those unique opportunities in the form of good politics, good policy, good legislation. It's great for criminal justice reform. Okay, it is great for the industry that's generating a lot of revenue right now. More taxable revenue. Okay. It will allow these business owners to participate in the federal banking system when they cannot do it currently. Like, it's just wild that anyone would even hesitate at this point. I work at a financial firm, and there's institutional hesitation from a lot of banks, angel investors, because federal versus state conundrum with marijuana. Yeah.
I'm going to vote for the MORE Act. It won't pass the Senate. It won't become law. But then we should come back in the 117th Congress, and we should truly do more for our people. I thank the gentleman. I yield back.
Gentleman from Florida yields back. Gentleman from Ohio research. Gentlewoman from Texas is recognized.
Well, let me first thank the gentleman from Florida for making this a bipartisan bill, and thank him for his insight. And I know that we will have many opportunities to work together. I might add, if we pass the MORE Act, we will allow veterans, hospitals, doctors to be engaged in research to help our returning soldiers and veterans who are.
Exactly. That's the other massive part about it, is that like that now you open up an entirely new avenue of like medicinal marijuana as treatment. But of course, it's an avenue that Big Pharma has not pumped a shitload of money into. So obviously they don't want that. They're like, hold on, let's buy out the fields first before we can figure out what to do with these with the legalization efforts. Like, come on, don't be crazy now. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. It's so fucking frustrating. Lobbying for the big tobacco industry and textile industry is why marijuana was criminalized in the first place. Yeah.
Suffering from a variety of diseases that may be impacted by marijuana use. I'm delighted now to
There's just no fucking rhyme or reason as to not legalize it. Bernie's opposing the new stimulus. Bernie Sanders announces opposition to the $908 billion relief package as law. Lawmakers scramble for a deal. I assume it's because of either the liability protection or because it doesn't have direct stimulus in it. Obviously it's because it's not enough. Yeah, because no $1,200, I assume, yeah. Bernie Sanders on Friday announced opposition to the bipartisan coronavirus relief package gaining momentum in the U.S. Senate as jockeying intensified among lawmakers eager to cut a deal to provide relief amid renewed signs of economic weakness. Sanders said he would vote against the $908 billion relief framework that has attracted a flurry of interest from Democrats and Republicans since it was introduced earlier this week. Sanders said he would only consider backing it if it was significantly revised. That package, broadly embraced this week by both senior congressional Democrats and more than half a dozen Republican senators, leaves out some priorities among liberals, such as another round of $1,200 stimulus payments. Led by Joe Manchin, Mitt Romney, and Susan Collins, among other centrist lawmakers, the legislative push aims to break months of gridlock in Congress over providing a boost to an economy facing what could prove its most dire stretch of the pandemic. So, let me tell you something, folks. Remember, it says a lot about where America is politically when the centrist lawmakers are in their advocacy advocating for what is functionally a deeply conservative bill to begin with. Like where we are at in American politics as far as the Overton window goes is a perfect representation or manifested perfectly in what we designate as centrist lawmakers. Like these people are not centrist lawmakers. These people are right-wing, okay? Joe Manchin is right-wing. Romney is right-wing. Susan Collins is right-wing. Just because they're center-right and therefore closer to the Democrats in that regard, and one of them is a Democrat, does not change that reality. Like this is center-right is considered center in this country. It's so stupid. Given the enormous economic desperation facing working families in this country today, I will not be able to support the recently announced Manchin-Romney COVID proposal unless it's significantly improved, Sanders said. Oh, yep, I was right. Inclusion of the liability shield intended to insulate firms from coronavirus-related lawsuits. Sanders added that the absence of a stimulus check in the bill, tens of millions of Americans living in desperation today would receive absolutely no financial help from this proposal. That is not acceptable. That does make sense. Oh, my man Biden is delivering remarks on 2020 in the state of economy. We'll tune into this when he comes out. 9 members of the Defense Board of Pentagon fired. Corey Lewandowski and Trump allies have been put in. I hate how the title is super clickety and rubs off the wrong image. What do you mean? Oh, this? The title for this or the title for my stream? I said Friday, Dan, and then I said Biden, Kamala, CNN interview.
2.3 million more people.
Oh, Biden is live already. Let's hear what he has to say.
Meaning for 23 weeks or more. By far the largest increase on record. This is a dire jobs report. It's a snapshot, I might remind you, up to mid-November. Before the surge in COVID cases many predicted, and the deaths rise that we've seen in December as we head into a very dark winter ahead. For example, since October, cities are down 21,000 educators, just as schools need more help in fighting against the pandemic. A couple of days ago, I spoke with a school crossing guard, a server, a restaurant owner, and a stagehand. Good people, honorable people, decent, hard-working Americans from across the country. It reminded me of my dad, who lost his job in Scranton and eventually moved our family to Delaware, just outside of Wilmington, a place called Claymont. He used to say, you've heard me say it before, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I expect them at least to understand my problems. The folks I'm talking about, the folks out there aren't looking for a handout. They just need help. They're in trouble through no fault of their own. Nothing they did caused them to have hours cut or lose their job or drop out of the market. What they need us to understand. We're in a crisis. We need to come together as a nation. We need the Congress to act and act now. If Congress and President Trump fail to act by the end of December, 12 million Americans will lose their unemployment benefits they rely on. Merry Christmas. The unemployment benefits allowing them to keep food on the table, to keep the lights on and the heat on, pay their bills. Emergency paid leave will end. The moratorium on evictions will expire. States will lose the vital tools they need to pay for COVID testing and public health. Put yourselves in that position, anybody listening. Laying awake at night wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to be harder for states to keep children and educators safe in schools, to try to provide assistance to keep small businesses alive. States and cities are already facing large budget shortfalls this year, again through no fault of their own. They've already laid off more than 1 million workers, even more teachers, firefighters, cops will lose their jobs unless federal government steps up now. And all of this weakens our ability to control the virus if we don't step up.
Yeah, the irony of defund the police is, you know what defunds the police, motherfucker? Not giving states relief. Of course, I'm joking because obviously the police are the line of defense for so many wealthy folks. So that's one area that they will absolutely make sure is properly funded regardless. What it will actually mean is, you know, defund literally every other fucking social safety net and even transportation in its entirety. But, you know, that is a big fucking problem.
Very bleak. Americans need help, and they need it now. And they need more to come early next year. But I must tell you, I am encouraged by the bipartisan efforts in the Senate around $900 billion package for relief. It's a bipartisan effort. When Congress, as they work out the details of this relief package, they're going to have to focus on resources for direct public health responses to COVID-19. We need meaningful funding for vaccines now, so don't lose time and leave people waiting for additional months. We need serious funding for testing now. We need to ramp up testing, allow our schools and business to operate safely. The sooner we pass the funding, the sooner we can turn the corner on COVID-19. You know, in the week since this election ended, there were questions about whether Democrats and Republicans could work together. I know many of you are skeptical about my view that they will and can't. Right now, they're showing they can. Congress and President Trump have to get this deal done for the American people. But any package passed in the lame duck session is not going to be enough overall. It's critical, but it's just a start. Congress is going to need to act again in January. Earlier today, I consulted with a number of my economic team, most of which have been announced by now. And Vice President Harris and I announced that team last week. As we inherit the public health and economic crisis, we're working on a plan that we'll put forward for the next Congress to move fast to control the pandemic, to revive the economy, and to build back better than before. We hope to see the same kind of spirit of bipartisan cooperation as we're seeing today. Our plan is based on the input from a broad range of people. The Vice President-elect and I have been meeting with since winning this election last month. Labor leaders, the leading CEOs in the country, mayors and governors of both parties, parents, educators, workers, small business owners. There's a consensus that as we battle COVID-19, we have to make sure that businesses and workers have the tools, the resources, and the guidance and the health and safety standards to keep businesses and schools open safely. It can be done. Because here's the deal. The fight against COVID won't be won by January alone. To truly end this crisis, Congress is going to need to fund more testing, as well as a more equitable and free distribution of the vaccine. We're going to need more economic relief to bridge through 2021 until this pandemic and economic crisis are over. And then we need to build back better. I've said it before, an independent analysis by Moody's, a well-respected Wall Street firm, projects that my Build Back Better plan would create 18.6 million good-paying jobs. It's based on a simple premise. Reward work in America, not wealth. We're going to invest in infrastructure, clean energy, and manufacturing, and so much more. We'll create millions of good-paying American jobs and get the job market back on the path to full employment. This will raise incomes, reduce drug prices, advance racial equity across the economy, and restore the backbone of this country, the middle class. Look, the bottom line, it's essential we provide immediate relief for working families and businesses now. Not just help them get on the other side of this painful crisis, but to avoid a much broader economic cost due to long-term unemployment and businesses failing.
I'm going to talk about the LGBT,
now,
the anti-LGBT Hungarian dude in a minute.
Financing, we can
Pretty funny.
add to growth in the near future. In fact, economic research shows that with conditions like the crisis today, especially with such low interest rates, not taking action, the action I'm proposing, will hurt the economy, scar the workforce, reduce growth, and add to the national debt. Look, I know times are tough. The challenges are daunting. But I know we can do this. We can create an economic recovery for all, for everybody. We can move from crisis to recovery and to resurgence. For Lord's sake, this is the United States of America. We've done it before, and we'll do it again. We will, I promise you. So I thank the bipartisan group that's trying to put something together right now. We're going to need more bipartisanship as we move on. God bless you guys and women are doing this. God bless our country, and may God protect our troops. I'll stop there, and I'll be happy to take some questions.
Look, good thing we got, another resounding successful economic recovery story from 2008. Good thing we got some of the architects of that recovery now in the Biden White House transition team. Of course, I'm referencing Brian Deese. Brian Deese nuts.
To inherit this task. Are you satisfied with the current plans that are underway for distributing that vaccine? Do you feel that the federal government is doing enough at this point? And what steps do you think need to be taken between now and when those first vaccines go out?
Well, there's a lot more that has to be done. They've clued us in on their planning on how they plan to distribute the actual vaccine to the various states. But there is no detailed plan, that we've seen anyway, as to how you get the vaccine out of a container into an injection syringe into somebody's arm. And it's going to be very difficult for that to be done, and it's a very expensive proposition. For example, we agree with their priorities that they've laid out so far. I do, at least. My team is looking at it, of dealing with first responders and those in nursing homes and in home care, the first people on the list. But we also have to realize that we're in a situation where there has to be some equity in the way this is distributed. And that requires, for example, right now we're in a situation where you have, the leading cause of death for all Americans this week is COVID-19. But blacks and Latinos are 3 times as likely to die if they get COVID-19. And so the communities of color, it's a mass casualty event. And so we got to figure out how
Okay, I have to fucking bring this out. I have to mention something. So there's a fundamental problem with rhetoric when it comes to the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. The Democratic Party at least acknowledges the problems, and a lot of well-intentioned liberals vote for the Democrats because they're like, well, they are acknowledging the problems. Like they're talking about us. They're talking about the impact that COVID has had on black and brown communities, like, which is true, right? Republicans, on the other hand, completely deny it. Well, okay. Half the time, though, Democrats acknowledge the problems and then continue along with like a center-right agenda. So it's almost worse, at least with Republicans, like in their fucking completely delusional worldview, it makes sense. Like you deny COVID is real, and that's why there is no reason to get stimulus, and there's also no reason to shut down the businesses, right? It's like when Democrats routinely hit the worst of both worlds and end up with the worst solution overall. Like either you keep everything open, everyone gets fucking COVID, and you deny COVID's existence and you give no fucking stimulus, or you fucking close everything down for a brief period of time just to level out the new cases, right? And also throughout that duration, while everything is closed down, you give people stimulus. So you pay them to sit the fuck at home, right? So they're not suffering, they're not dying, they're not losing their jobs. Or the last version of the events is the Democratic version, which is, tell people to fucking stay at home and not give them any money. And it's literally the worst of the three. So acknowledging the problem is good. And I am glad that the Democratic Party is acknowledging the problem. They're acknowledging some of the worst impacted communities, but then they don't actually advocate for what is a necessity, and in this circumstance it's stimulus, like direct cash relief.
Cabinet based on race, color, based on gender that's ever existed in the United States of America.
So no commitment on those spots?
A commitment of what I just said. It'll be the most diverse cabinet and the main spots in both White House as well as the cabinet positions.
Thank you.
Like this is like 2014, 2012 politics. Like, oh, we're going to have diverse representation. Like, sure, some people are still on, it impacts some people. Some people like it. Okay, great. Your mom and dad might be on board with it because, they watch MSNBC and it's like a diverse cabinet. It's great. That's great. But diversity does not necessarily mean progress, okay? Diverse cabinets, if they are the same old neoliberal duds, but with like, a black or brown patina on top of it, does not change the reality that it's still going to be a neoliberal, marginalist, incrementalist cabinet. Now, there are some people that are center, dare I say center left, I guess. Oh, he's asking about Bernie Sanders.
$900 billion deal is not good enough.
Well, it would be kind of stupid for me to tell you what I did, wouldn't it? Because it'd be kind of hard to do it again. I told you all that I was confident we'd get a bipartisan agreement on this stuff. And I think we will, not just on this package, but I think beyond. And the last thing I'm going to do is tell you strategically how I go about this. I remember I used to get asked the same thing when I was putting together significant deals between Democrats and Republicans when I was a senator and vice president. It's just not a very smart thing. It's like me asking you, tell me how you get your sources and how'd you get those sources you got in order to get that story. It would be ridiculous for you to tell me or your colleagues how you did it. All I can say is I'm confident there are a sufficient number of Democrats and Republicans in the United States Senate, along with significant votes coming out of the House of Representatives, to put together a serious package that will keep us from going off the edge here, provide the kind of resources that are needed immediately. It's not going to satisfy everybody, but the option is, if you insist on everything, we're likely to get nothing on both sides. And so I think they're on their way to being able to come up with a package that meets the basic immediate needs that we have.
Yeah, I doubtful, but hopefully it'll happen. We'll see what happens. Someone said, imagine thinking like Barack Obama didn't do heaps for like black confidence in the country. I'm not denying that. that's like part of the reason why I like Barack Obama is that like no matter what, even though he's a fucking war criminal, he was still cool, pretty charismatic, and it goes back to a nostalgic era for me. Even like 8 years after George W. Bush destroyed the world, the hope and change message still permeates. No matter what, no matter the reality. Even though that I'm aware of Obama's administration and how they operated, but if you think that like having Barack Obama as a candidate is the end all be all for black wealth or black liberation, you're crazy. I mean, black wealth did not expand under Barack Obama in levels that were higher under Barack Obama than it did under George W. Bush, for example. So it's not an automatic solution. And here's why you also understand this, right? You understand this. You personally understand the point when it comes to the dynamic between Republicans and Democrats. Like, Donald Trump's cabinet has more, Donald Trump's cabinet had more females, more women cabinet positions than previous administrations did. He had one of the youngest press secretaries, youngest female press secretaries. Like, he had so many women in positions of power within his cabinet. So, do you think Donald Trump was actually progressive on women's issues? Would you ever say that? No, you wouldn't. And the reason why you would never say that is because when it comes to Republicans, you personally understand, like, oh no, representation alone is not necessarily progress. You get what I'm saying? Do you understand? Representation alone does not mean that like this person cares about these causes that he claims to care about. And the same goes for Joe Biden as well. We will see. We shall see what happens. Like, Donald Trump, after all, appointed Amy Coney Barrett. It's a female Supreme Court justice. Does that mean he gives a shit about women's rights? No. Just like you understand that, for example, Candace Owens is not a advocate for black causes or causes for women. But she's a black woman, right? So you also personally understand that representation alone does not imply progress. So when someone like Joe Biden uses that as a talking point to be like, well, my commitments are to make the most diverse cabinet possible. Okay, great. But like, who are you putting into positions of power?
Millions of dollars.
Like, why are you using that as a distraction?
And look, again, I've learned after hanging around for a while, the last thing you do before you begin a negotiation is lay down a drop-dead marker. And if it's not this, I'm not going to talk to you. I think there's a lot we can get done. And I think people are going to see the overwhelming necessity. What's going to start to happen is a lot of folks who represent Republican districts are going to find their Republican neighbors are in real trouble as things get worse. They're going to find that there's an overwhelming need as these numbers skyrocket. You remember my saying that I believe the experts we'd had at least another 250 dead before the end of the year. And they went, oh, no, all right. Guess what? Look what's happening. It's going to get much worse. It's going to get much worse. And so I believe that there are enough Republicans who will join enough Democrats in the United States Senate to get a majority, along with the House to get it done. But we'll see. We'll see. This is a step at a time.
And on executive orders?
Well, I'd issue executive orders that are totally within the purview of an executive. But one of the things I don't like is I don't like people saying,
Turkish MD says the vaccine must be contained in minus 70 degrees Celsius. That's only one of them, by the way. That not all the vaccines have that same limitation. Vaccine needs rare materials such as horseshoe crab blood. This is true. Some of those problems, even vaccine is 100% safe and pass the FDA tomorrow. We can't access the vaccine until spring. Probably the pandemic will continue until 2022. And for vegans in the chat, yes, the vaccine is not vegan.
We're distributing that money.
And then quickly on the
Don't worry, they're vegan, so they probably think that they're COVID immune anyway.
American and vulnerable populations, you said yourself that you're willing to get the vaccine publicly to get people to feel safe. But there are people already telling me, well, President-elect Biden has good health care. If there's some complications, he might have better health care than me, African Americans around the country. What more can you do to convince people that the vaccine is safe for them? And does that mean you'll at all lean on any existing members of the Corona Task Force? I know that you are committed to keeping Dr. Fauci, but is there Dr. Birx? Is there anyone else that you might be leaning on to convince people?
There are a lot of people I'm looking to convince people in the task force, and the task force will continue to be expanded with really fine people. And look, I think actions of presidents matter. And I'm going to say something that I think the African American community, Latino community have known I've never misrepresented anything to them. And that if, as you all keep pointing out, I'm the oldest president ever elected, although I'm actually only 47. But all kidding aside, I think that my taking the vaccine and people seeing me take that vaccine is going to give some confidence. But you know, I said early on, you may remember, I think you may have asked me the question, I may be mistaken. But I said early on that I think one of the things that bothers me the most is by the wild assertions the administration was making about how this was going to go away and inject bleach and all those kinds of things. It was diminishing.
This is a talking point, man. I'm sorry. Just like, you know how I called out the fucking, like, oh, well, I can't give you I can't give you a promise on anything other than the fact that it's going to be the most diverse cabinet. Saying I can't, like, I'm a president who believes in science is literally a fucking smokescreen, okay? Okay, Donald Trump says don't wear a mask. Who gives a fuck? You say you have to wear a mask. We're going to do 100 days of mask wearing. If you don't follow that up with actual fucking policies on lockdowns, how you're going to implement lockdowns, and how you're going to make sure people stay at home without fucking dying. And what I mean by that is like direct cash stimulus, eviction moratoriums that continue, right? If you don't do that, then you're no different than Donald Trump. You're just saying like, well, put a mask on, Jack. That's nuts, dude. That's fucking insane. And by the way, for the record, I just want to point out that like that's precisely what Nancy Pelosi said too. Ask why she is on board with an apparently smaller COVID package. Speaker Pelosi cites the game changer of vaccine development in Biden's election. That's okay now because we have a new president, a president who recognizes we need to depend on science. Pelosi, that was not a mistake. That was a decision that has taken us to a place where we can do the right things without, should we say, other considerations in the legislation that we don't want. I'm very proud of where we are. She says she's proud of the work of her chairs. This is why you should just never defend Nancy Pelosi. Because now I look like a fucking asshole for saying that, like, she honestly and earnestly wanted more money. And now this just literally looks like she was just waiting for Joe Biden to win. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, like, it was not going to get passed anyway because of Mitch McConnell. And that's true. That was the big hurdle in front of this process. Mitch McConnell and the Republicans that did not want to look like they were dealing with Democrats. But still. You said she shouldn't take the $3 trillion. Now we're at $1 trillion. No, I didn't say she shouldn't take the $3 trillion. I said she shouldn't take the $1 trillion. Now this is less than $1 trillion. But the $1 trillion was never going to happen anyway. Like, $1 trillion wasn't even going to happen. Mitch McConnell is not going to pass $1 trillion. He's not. He has said as much. He has said it already. Like, that's why they threw out feelers in that conversation in the media, in the press. Okay? They threw out feelers in the fucking press where, like, Republicans were saying, like, oh, yeah, you know, we're definitely going to fucking, we might work with a smaller bill. No, the fuck they wouldn't. No, the fuck they wouldn't. If Mitch didn't pass the Mnuchin deal, there would be no question about whose fault it was. You were wrong. Admit it. 1.8 trillion. Mitch never passed the Mnuchin deal. He never said that he was going to pass the $1.8 trillion package. You are wrong. Not only are you wrong, but you're spreading false information. There was no moment in time when Mitch McConnell ever fucking said yes to a $1.8 trillion deal. At most, he said, "Oh, we'll take a look at it." But he also said he won't do it. Yeah. So you're fucking so wrong. You're so fucking delusionally wrong. Like, I get hating Nancy Pelosi, but assuming that like Mitch McConnell is not even somehow a bigger villain in this conversation is dumb and incorrect, and you look like a fool.
Be a platform ceremony, but I don't know exactly how it's all going to work out. The key is keeping people safe. I can't do a super version of the president's announcement in the Rose Garden nationwide.
Would it matter, though, if Biden released a
It's
specific
just gonna
policy
have
and he
to
won't
be,
take over for 2
more
months?
imaginative,
Yeah, I mean,
but I think, like I said, I think the convention we put on really opened up avenues that we never thought existed, and I doubt there will be another Democratic, at least a Democratic convention, that it's a straight like it always has been. I think we can include more people. People want to celebrate. People want to be able to say.
You're missing the point. Pelosi should have pushed a $1.8 trillion deal and what? Got credit? What kind of credit would she have gotten? What kind of credit would she have gotten? Would you have given her credit? No, you wouldn't have. Everyone would still fucking hate her. There is no credit. Standing steadfast and strong and saying it's a necessity that we need, $2 trillion at least, or $2.4 trillion at least, is something that ultimately leads to the same exact fucking conclusion. Nobody gets money. Absolutely nobody gets money regardless. The biggest issue that I had with Nancy Pelosi, while I was criticizing her, the biggest issue that I had with Nancy Pelosi, while I was still defending her in that situation, was the fact that she wasn't screaming from the fucking rooftops for months about how the congressional Republicans were literally standing against this stimulus. But they didn't do that. They didn't communicate effectively. And guess what? They deserved that they didn't fucking win additional Senate seats. They deserved to lose those Senate seats because they didn't do fucking shit. You have to make an argument as to why people should vote for the Senate seats. And you never did that. Okay? You can't expect people to just fucking come out and vote. It's so dumb. It's so stupid.
We've got to take the vitriol out of politics. I know there's a lot of people on both sides who want to continue to go after and punish the opposition. I get that. I get the fact that an awful lot of Americans are disappointed I was elected president. Fortunately, there's 7 million more that were happy than disappointed, but I get that.
No, House seats as well. But no, I mean Senate seats, motherfucker. There were close Senate races.
I said from the beginning, and I think I've conducted myself this way throughout my career.
God damn, Cash App. Thank you for the 100 big ones. Yo, that's wild.
Never their motive.
Thank you, Cash App.
Once you question their motive, then in fact, there's no way to get to go. You're in the pocket of the cement industry. Let's do a deal on highways. Oh, no possibility. And so when I've dealt with Mitch McConnell in the past as a vice president or as a senator, we haven't engaged in that activity. Doesn't mean we can get to an agreement. I'm not asking anybody to abandon their principles. But I do think it makes no sense to engage in vitriol and trying to get to a place where I can't believe that a majority of the Republicans don't understand we need a new infrastructure in America. If there was nothing to do with jobs or our green economy, there's too many bridges that are going to collapse, too many roads in disrepair, too many Republican states that every time it floods, they flood out their water systems are polluted. It's just, these are common problems. And I'm confident it's going to be hard, but I'm confident we can get to agreement on a number of things that will be of consequence. Thank you all so very, very much. Is that it? Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. No, I don't think it should be mandatory. I wouldn't demand to be mandatory, but I would do everything in my power, just like I don't think masks have to be made mandatory nationwide. I'll do everything in my power as the President of the United States to encourage people to do the right thing, and when they do it, demonstrate that it matters. That's why I said,
sick.
In my inaugural speech, I'm going to ask people to commit for 100 days to wear a mask. Not because I'm asking it for any reason to punish. This is not a political issue. It's become one. But if people do it for 100 days in the middle of what will be still a raging crisis, and the vaccine is able to be distributed, they're going to see deaths drop off the edge. They're going to see hundreds of thousands of people not getting sick.
Man, that shit was early 2020, brother. I'm sorry.
It's worth the patriotic duty to go ahead and protect other people.
Yo, this is early 2020, brother. This is early 2020. It would have been great if Donald Trump did that in the beginning of 2020. Okay, but it is so late. This is so late. What can he do is not a question you can ask me right now. What can he do is not a fucking question you can ask me. I've already said it a million times over what he should do.
Where even
here's Obama talking about the Georgia runoffs.
With a big majority, it's tough to get legislation through. And if you don't have a majority, if the Senate is controlled by Republicans who are interested in obstruction and gridlock rather than progress and helping people, they can block just about anything. And so, although the first 2 years of my presidency were the most productive legislatively since Lyndon B. Johnson, once Mitch McConnell was controlling that gavel and controlling the agenda in the Senate, we saw a lot of progress halt. And it slowed down our ability to recover. It slowed down growth. It slowed down our ability to get to implement healthcare so that more people had access to affordable care and protections from insurance companies that didn't want to give them coverage. And so the Senate really matters. And one of the frustrations that I had during my presidency was oftentimes, you know, folks who were even my supporters, they'd say, well, you know what? Look, we got Barack there now. Yeah, Michelle, she's first lady.
Those people are so brain dead, by the way. We got to keep a Republican Senate to keep the fucking Democratic president in check. Like, those people are fucking so brain dead. Don't worry. Democrats love perpetually keeping themselves in check as though they have a Republican opposition that is stopping them every step of the way, whether it be the economic recovery in the aftermath of 2008 or the ACA. There are plenty of conservative Democrats who will do everything they can, who will do everything they fucking can to make sure that they undermine reform and undermine progress, no matter what it takes. Joe Lieberman is a great example of this, among others. So
she looks pretty, and she's doing great work, and you know, we trust them, and so we don't have to do anything now.
You missed it, bro. Obama did most stuff legislatively. Yeah, when he had fucking majority, he still conceded to Republicans on issues that he never had to. Like, ACA is a great example of this. He didn't need a single Republican vote. He didn't get a single Republican vote, and he still fucking conceded and like had these procedural hurdles in front of it, no matter what. That probably hurt him more than anything else, if we're being real. Because there is one thing. No matter what kind of legislation, right before he fucking lost 1,000 seats. Okay, hold on. I'm going to make a point about that as well. So the ACA, unfortunately, was punishing. But the reason why the ACA was punishing was because, well, one, Republicans are demons and completely fucking lied about every part of it, including saying that, like, you know, the Obamacare is going to kill your old folks. Now, some of you are too young to remember this, but Republicans literally lied over and over again, saying there's going to be death panels and old folks are going to be killed. This is socialism. There's going to be rationing of healthcare. It never happened. Death panels obviously did not happen until now. Now they will happen under a hyper-capitalist economic organization of the hyper-capitalist economic organization of healthcare, we now literally have death panels for COVID because we had to, demonstrate fealty to the line god and offer blood to the line god so that the lines could go up, the stonks. But he basically expended so much political capital, that frustrated Americans because of the process being so long. Like, one way or the other, no matter what, if you pass legislation, it's going to hurt you, okay? But the reason why it's going to hurt you is not often because of what kind of legislation you're passing. It hurts you because what kind of messaging is wrapped up around the legislation, which side is more successful at, like, destroying the legislation piece by piece with lies like the Republicans did on the ACA. But more significantly than that, what causes you to expend so much political capital when you pass legislation is how long it takes, how much gridlock there is. So there were a lot of issues as to why Barack Obama lost so many seats. But one of the biggest reasons for why he did was because he followed through on dealing with Republicans in an honest way. The only reason it took so long is because they tried to craft it in a way to get Republicans to vote for it, even though they had 60 seats in the Senate and didn't need a single one. Yeah. So, and when that lengthy process created opportunities for Republicans to lie about it, he lost seats because he's black, end of story. Are you fucking dumb? Are you a fucking moron, dude? Huh? I mean, racism is a significant factor in the way that Barack Obama was seen as a divisive figure, right? Certainly. But are you fucking stupid? So did he win seats because he was? Did people that voted for him? Did the people that voted for him not know that he was black in 2008? Like, are you fucking stupid? Like, people voted for him in 2008 because they thought he was white, and then they recognized he was black in the first 2 years, or did something else happen in that situation? What about the two-term Obama voters that turned for Donald Trump? Did they only recognize that Barack Obama was a black person after voting for him twice? They didn't recognize it in 2008. They didn't recognize it in fucking 2012, but they thought he was white in 2012, and by 2016, they realized, like, oh shit, I've been voting for a black guy. Time to vote for the races instead? Really? That's how it works in your mind? That's how he won re-election too, dude. They thought he was white again right after they lost those seats. Yeah. That's what it was. No, but Republicans used racial agitation to cause a divisive divide in politics. Okay, but he still won. And he won in fucking 2008 too. What do you think, they weren't doing divisive racial agitation? What are you, psychotic? They always have. And they always will. What do you do? What do you do? There has to be another factor if that's a constant. And it was a constant in 2008. It was a constant in fucking 2012. Hillary fucking did racial agitation against Barack Obama. No, the constant is racial agitation from Republicans. That's all they ever do. That's how they win fucking elections. It's still a fucking constant. But what the big part of the problem was literally that Americans, because they're fucking stupid for the most part, hate when politics takes long, okay? The longer the process is to push legislation, they don't sit back like you do because you think you're endlessly smarter than the average American. They don't sit back like you do and go, ha ha, bipartisanship in action. I love this. This is great. They go, why the fuck is this taking so long? While one side is literally pumping every kind of fucking psychotic, nonsensical conspiracy theory into the back of their domes throughout that entire duration. They obstruct, and then they lie about it. The longer it takes, the more you try to concede to elements that you do not need concessions on. The longer you fucking take to try to win Republicans over to your legislation, the easier it will be for Republicans to own you.